Hey guys, welcome back. About a week ago, we announced the new multi-data source environment feature, which lets you create multiple environments for your data sources, just like you would using environment variables while working with code. So you can have a staging data source or a staging environment for your staging data source, or a production environment for your production data source and workloads. All of that is now possible on AppSmith. So if you missed that announcement video, go check it out and you catch a lot from it. But there's more to the story, and that's why we're making a follow-up video. You can actually use the data source environment feature in hand with the Git version control workflow to unlock powerful potentials while building your applications. And just like you know from building applications or working with code, being able to pair up environments to certain Git branches can open up a lot of powerful workflows. Think of QA, think of staging environments, think of a separate production environment with a branch to go with it. Now, I want you to pause for a moment and bring all of that context into AppSmith. It's mind-blowingly awesome, right? Exactly, and that's why I'm making this video, to show you how you can use these two features together to unlock a lot of potential while building your apps. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how to build an application using the multiple data source environment feature. Then I'll show you how to connect that application to Git. And from then on, we'll create a feature branch that is going to have new changes not present in the production or main branch. And then we'll test our changes in that branch using the staging environment. And of course, we'll merge all of the changes back into the production branch. So that's all we'll be looking at in today's video. I'm so excited for this. My name is Confident and I'm a developer advocate at AppSmith. Without any delay, let's get started. All right, so we'll get started by adding a separate data source to this app. We actually have a bare bones app built, so we won't walk through building it from scratch. And if you take a look at this app, it's a simple application that displays a bunch of customers on a table. So it's a customer CRM app. We can see all of the customers we have coming from a database and their account status. And of course, this is built using MongoDB. We have a customer's MongoDB connection that has all of this, is being pulled from. So what we want to do at this point is, we only have one environment, right? We have just the production environment. Let's go on to add a second environment to this application so that we have a staging environment set up. To do that, I'm just going to edit this data source and let's go to the staging tab to add a staging environment. So I'm going to be using the URI string. Paste that in, looks good. We can test our configuration. All right, this looks good and we can save it. And now we have two environments. We have both the production environment and the staging environment as well. And now if we go to switch, so let's go back to the application so that you can actually see the data. This is the data coming from the production environment. Now we can go on to switch to the staging environment, and we have a different data set that is being pulled from the staging environment. So we have the environment set up for this app. Let's actually go to connect to Git so that we can start the other workflow of our application building process. All right, connecting our application to Git is really straightforward. If you take a look at the status bar, there's a button to connect the app to a Git repository, and this can be any Git provider. We're going to be using GitHub in this video, but you're not limited to using GitHub. So I'm going to go ahead to connect to Git, and here I have to supply the remote URL of the repository we have set up for the application. So to do that, I'm going to open up my GitHub account. This is my GitHub account. Don't forget to smash the follow button over here. But let's go on to create a repository for our AppSmith application. So I'll go to the repositories tab and let's create a new repository. So I'm going to call this the AppSmith DS Git flow. That's a really long name, and I'll set it to my account. All right, that's available. It's public. You can also be private, like whichever you choose to go with. Then I'll go on to create this repository. So this is done. What you want to do is copy the SSH URL, which is what you have right here. So I'll go ahead to copy this and head back to AppSmith. Let's paste this in. looks good. Then we'll go on to generate the SSH key so that we can deploy our changes from AppSmith to the GitHub repository. So I'll copy this key, all right, and head back to the AppSmith repository that was created on my GitHub account. I'll go to the settings tab. I am going to go into the deploy keys and I'll create a new deploy key for AppSmith. So let's call this AppSmith deploy key, paste this in, looks good. I'm going to need to allow write access so that we can actually push changes from AppSmith to the GitHub repository, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure write access is enabled. Then I had the key added and we're good to go, right? So now that all of this is done, if you want to edit the author name and author email, you can actually do that, but I'm going to leave this as default. I'll go ahead to connect to the GitHub repository and it's going to push our changes to the GitHub repository. Like it's going to do that for us. So let's give this some time and we'll get back to it. All right, so this is done now and all of our changes are synced to the GitHub repository. We'll head back and go to the code tab. You notice that we have stuff from our AppSmith app showing up right here. So we can directly visit the application from the repository link. I'm not going to do that because we actually have this open on a separate tab. But you have all of that information now synced to the GitHub provider or the Git provider. Now let's start doing interesting things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch. So I'm going to create a new branch from the main branch and have all of the changes added to that branch. So let's call this feat update. So this is going to be the branch where we work on our update flow. And over here, we are taking to the new branch, the new feature branch, right? So we have this branch done and we can actually start making our changes to it right from this point on. All right, so let's make changes to this app. First thing I'm going to do is let's make sure we have a way to actually edit stuff on the app. So I'm going to go grab a JSON form widget. All right, so let's grab a JSON form widget. I'll place it over here. That looks good. Let's make sure it is connected to the table. So I'm just going to do table1.selected row. And one thing we want to do is make sure the ID is hidden. And if we want, we can actually also reorder things, but I think name, phone number. Okay, so let's do name, email, phone number, account. I think that's better. And of course, I want this to be aligned. So it's aligned with the form and that looks good. One small change I'm going to make here is I'd like to make sure that we actually have this app looking a bit better. So I'm going to extend the banner across the app. All right, that went up, so I'm going to move it down. All right, that looks good. Then I'll add a background image to the container. By the way, this is a hack. Something you notice is if you go enable JavaScript and instead of passing a color to the background property of the container, you can actually pass a URL and make it the background image. So I'm going to say URL. Let's pass in the URL of the background image. And you notice we have the background image showing up. So that's actually cool. Then I'll make some changes here to make sure that the text color is white because we have a dark background. And now this looks a bit better, but we're not done, right? We need this form to be able to actually write updates to the database. So let's leave the UI and now let's go create queries to actually help us do that. So I'll go to the customers database. I'm going to create a new query. And this query is going to be the update customer query. All right, so the command is going to be update document and the collection is going to be in the customers collection. So for the actual query, this is going to be the ID of the customer we are updating. So this is going to be underscore ID, which is going to be an object ID. And we're going to pass in the ID of the customer. We can grab this info from the table. So we can grab this from the table one.selected row._ID. All right, and right there we have the user's ID and the actual updates will go into the updates field. So what we want to do here is we want to set some values that is update the customer's data, and we'll do that using the $set. And here we pass in payload coming from the JSON form. So this is going to be JSON form 1 dot form data, and with that we're good to go. So this query is actually going to update the user's record. We can give this a run to see if this works. It does, and you can see the returned data. Not sure why it's returning multiple items. Oh, this should be update document. Okay, single document. All right, so I think the command is correct, but I'm not sure why it's returning multiple documents. All right, so let's head back to the UI, and something we're going to do is we'll hook the submit button to that query we just created. So whenever the submit event is fired, we want to go execute the update customer query, and then when that's done, we are going to add just one callback. We're going to add a callback to execute the get customers query. So this is going to be get customers, and that looks good. So we can actually go give this a try, right? We can give this a test, see what it looks like, and one thing to note is that we're performing this test in the staging environment. This is the staging environment, so any change we make here is safe. So I'm going to try to update this customer's record. So I'm going to set her name to Love instead of Lowy, and let's see if that works. And you can see that's updated, like that was done in our staging environment. We have this customer's record change, and of course I can completely change this customer's name, so I'm going to set this to confidence. All right, let's submit this, and we have that customer's changes saved in the staging environment, which is exactly what we want. So let's move on to committing these changes and merging them back into our production environment. All right, so now that we have the app almost complete, or actually this is all the change we want to make, we can actually go on to commit these changes and have it merged, and then do a PR to merge those changes into our production branch. So let's give this some time to figure out all of the changes. So I'm going to say fit, adds, update, flow. All right, and we can commit and push. All right, that has been pushed. And something you notice if we head back into GitHub is that we have that feature branch pushed to GitHub. Like we have the branch, we have both the main branch and the feature branch. So now that that's done, what I want to do is merge the changes from our feature branch to the main branch. And we can do that using the merge tab. So you can see the merge tab over here, or you could also open that up using the modal here. All right, that's going to open up the modal into the merge tab. So we want to merge the changes into the master branch. All right, and let's go ahead to merge those changes. All right, changes are merged now. Now I'm going to go switch to the master branch or the production environment, and we have all of our changes here. So we are in the main branch. We have all of our changes displayed. This was the form we built. This was the UI change we also made to the header of the application, and everything looks good. And we can go on to test our code, right? We could have created a QA branch or a testing branch and invited our test team or our QA team to come check out the app while playing with the staging environment, so that they make sure everything is good before we actually merge the code back into production. But we don't need to do all of that because I want to keep this video short. Now that everything is here, we can actually switch the environment back to production. Notice we have the first user's name set to confidence here. But the moment I switch into the production branch, now our application is going to be talking to production data. And you can see we don't have confidence anymore. We can go ahead to deploy this app. And actually the app is already deployed, so we can go view the latest deployed version of the app using the production environment, which is really awesome. All right, so this has been a quick video to show you how to use the Datasource Environment feature along with the Git workflow. And of course, this opens up a lot of possibilities in your app development lifecycle. I'm sure you guys will look for really creative ways to use these features together. I'm open to hearing ways in which you are putting these features to use in your production applications. That'll be all for today's video, but if you'd love to learn more, Go check out the video we made introducing the data source environment feature. Go check it out right here. And if you also love to learn more about programmatic access control, Kevin made this video here to show you how to do that on AppSmith. So go check out these videos and I'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.